Hello and welcome to this midweek reflection for the week of May the 24th. As usual, I'm going to just bring the candle into the screen here and light the candle as we begin. To remind us, as we have been doing throughout this Easter season, of the presence of the risen Christ here among us in all places, in each person, reminding us that life is stronger than death, that hope is more powerful than despair, and that love is stronger, more able to overcome hatred. And as we begin today, I invite you to take a moment to take a deep breath and just to become aware in this time of how you really are, to declare your state. How is it with you? How is it with your soul as you come to this moment in time, as you come to this place in your week? And however it may be, know that it is perfectly fine to be however you are. If you're frazzled, if you're scared, you're anxious, or if you're calm, grounded, at peace. However you come is fine, because however we are is able to be beautifully held in the expansiveness of the divine. And then from you have a sense of how it is that you come. You might just take another moment and think about the grace that you need. What is the sacred gift that you are needing as you come to this time today? And that grace or that gift might be defined or informed by your state. If you're anxious, you might come seeking the grace of peace. If you are feeling doubtful, you might come seeking the grace of trust or even certainty. Or you might just come seeking the grace of being open to whatever it is that is wanting to be heard today. Whatever it is that God, that the divine, is wanting you to hear, especially as we turn to the sacred text to listen more closely. This past Sunday, I shared the story of the Ascension, the story of Jesus' final period of time on earth when he is taken up into the heavens. And as we listened to the reading on Sunday, we heard that he was blessing his followers, his disciples, as he left them. And there's a wonderful notion in that as the risen Christ, as the earthly Jesus, then the risen Christ takes his leave, he is still in the act of blessing his followers. And so there's still this sense that as the earthly Jesus becomes the universal Christ, as I was saying on Sunday, as Richard Rohr refers to that he and his presence is still blessing us, still blessing all of creation. And by the universal Christ, we're really referring to that essence of the divine the essence of love, of life that has been that has been in existence since the very beginning of time, was in the world before this earthly world was created, according to the scriptures. And so there's a lovely sense in that the love and the life that was made manifest in Jesus was already in existence, already available, accessible, just came into being in human form. The Word became flesh, love became flesh. We were able to see love in its fullness. In the Christian tradition, we would say that we see love, we see the divine in its fullness in the person of Jesus, but that the essence of Jesus was that what is at the heart of Jesus was in the world from the very beginning. And so as I was thinking about blessing this week, the story that came to my mind was the story of Abraham and Sarah, who are also part of God's continuous blessing. The earliest ones in the scripture, we are told, who are given this call to be a blessing, that their descendants would be a blessing. So the sacred comes close to Abraham in this story, and we have this sense that the eternal, that same eternal blessing that's in Jesus is present in this story that I'm about to read to you today. And the other thing that I think perhaps the other reason this story came to my mind this week in particular was that I heard someone talking a while ago about how this era that we're in is a kind of a pilgrimage, because we're journeying through unknown lands, and we've had to leave something behind, and we're moving in and through this new time that we've never been in before, and that we could consider it to be a journey with the sacred. It's not that God called us into this time in the kind of intentional way that would say that God caused COVID-19 to happen, but there is something in the reality that is also present in the story of Abraham and Sarah, that out of a barren and desperate situation, so Abraham and Sarah were barren, they weren't able to have children, out of a place where there seemed to be no hope, the divine God calls us into a promised land, into a hopeful place. So with those that lens, and with that sense of God's promise in our hearts and in our minds and ears, we turn now to the story of Abraham and Sarah. And you'll notice, of course, that Abraham was quite old when he was called into this new land. So it's never too late to be called into promise and hope. I'm reading from the 12th chapter of Genesis, and you might want to listen for a word or a phrase as you open yourself to this reading today. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot, and all the possessions that they had gathered, and the persons whom they had acquired in Haran, and they set forth to go to the land of Canaan. When they had come to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place at Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built there an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. And from there he moved on to the hill country on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord, and invoked the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on by stages toward the Negeb. When we tell this story to the children, we talk about how God came close to Abram, and Abram came close to God, so close that Abram knew what God wanted him to do. That's the way we talk about that blessing, that God came close. So I'm wondering how and where God has come close to you, how and where it is that God is coming close to God, or that you are coming close to God in this time. When Abram gets to the land of the Canaanites, the story says that that land will be given to Abram's offspring. It's a way of saying that this is a future promise that you are caught up in. And so I wonder how it is that you are being a blessing to others. And I wonder how the way that you are blessing others is preparing a place, blessing, creating a place of blessing for future generations. How are you a blessing to others? And is there a way that that blessing that you are creating also has some sense of being land, as it were, that's being prepared for the future, for future generations? Are we planting seeds in this time that will bear fruit in future generations? Where is it that you are being led, or you think you are being led in this time? Abram didn't have much of a sense of where he was being led, and yet his regular contact with God somehow seemed to be almost like a signpost that would point the way to the next step for him. Where is it that you're being led in these days, in this time? Or where do you think that you are being led? Abram traveled on, journeyed through the desert towards the Negev in stages. What's the stage that you are at in your own journey? And what name might you give to this stage? Lots of questions to think about this week from this passage. As we continue to ponder them, I'm going to sing to close us out. Maybe to let some of that sink in a bit more deeply. And as I sing this piece, it is a round, so you could sing the opposite part that I am singing. And if you've been watching these reflections for a while, or you've worshipped at Mount Seymour United, you probably know this piece well. Hold us in your grace, O God. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace, O God. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace, O God. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace, O God. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace. Hold us in your grace. May God bless us with wisdom and wonder as you continue to ponder the meaning of these sacred words that we have heard today throughout the rest of this week, throughout the rest of this day. And may you be richly blessed as you come close to the divine and as the divine comes close to you. May it be so.